Shauna?
More than 11, so.
Okay, wonderful. All right, we'll give you a few minutes. We'll do introductions first. I'm Chair John Bly with the Northern California Engineering Contractors Association, and we'll go this way.
Mark Soylent Company, represent District 2.
Musa Bessie representing the Santa Rosa Chamber.
Tom Conlon, representing the Sonoma County Conservation Committee.
Rick Lutman, League of Women Voters of Sonoma County.
Eric Sweaver, Executive Director of the Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition.
Brian Lang, representing District 4.
John Richards, Sonoma County Wine Growers.
Janice Thompson, guest.
Yes.
Mark Hale from BIA.
Jerry Glazer, representing the North Bay Electric Auto Association.
Woo-hoo.
I have to remember what the letters stand for, that's all.
Yeah, you can need a good acronym, right?
I'm Tim Zotter with District 1.
Kathleen Cortez, I'm Human Service Area Agency on Aging.
Dennis Hunter, representing Sonoma County Alliance.
Okay, and we'll go to our screen because I'm just not used to seeing you up there, Steve, but let's start with you, Steve.
Sorry, I can't be there in person. Steve Bertelbaugh representing the Sierra Club.
Okay.
And Adam Garcia with Sonoma County Transportation Authority, Regional Climate Protection Authority. Thanks.
All right, guys, thanks. We're missing Jake, huh? Jake's a stalwart. Okay, so we'll go to the back of the room and introductions back there, gang. Hi. Okay.
Shauna Goss, SCTA, RCPA.
David Rivera, SCTA, RCPA. Russ Bandera, SCTA, RCPA.
Thank you.
SCTA, RCPA.
All right, thank you, guys. Any public comment on items not on the regular agenda? Yeah, Rick.
I have two things. One is just trivial. Number 6 on the agenda has the wrong date for the next meeting of the SCTA. I assume it should be something in March. But also I wanted to ask about a matter that we heard briefly about several months ago. I think it was a member of the staff said that there was a problem between the county and the Golden Gate Bus Authority. They were still charging us $50 million a year for the kind of service they were giving before the pandemic, but they had subsequently reduced substantially the number of routes that they were serving here, but they hadn't reduced the $50 million. I wonder if anybody can give us an update on that. Does anybody else remember this?
Looking longingly at staff, is there anybody that can give us an update on that?
So there actually is a planning effort going on right now with both Marin and Sonoma County transit operators to study certain of the highway network. And we're looking to figure out what the demand is, what the service should look like, and how to best share the funding that we have in the 2 counties. So yes, we are looking into that right now. And we expect to be able to address the financial situation for the next fiscal year. Meaning for meeting 25, 26.
I would ask that we get a report on that, that deliberations is finished.
Can we agendize that either next month or the following month for a report on that?
I think that we don't have a whole lot to report on yet. So I would suggest this fall having a report on that, but
Okay.
Answer any questions we can provide responses to now. But
Let's agendize it when we get more information then. Okay, thank you. We'll stay in the loop. Hang on, Rick, is it on that subject? Because he had one other.
Yeah, it's the same subject. I know this is reaching back several years to when the pandemic began and these cuts were made in their service, but I'm really puzzled how it happens that they can cut the routes so significantly and not cut the amount we're paying. I mean, there must be a contract with the Sonoma County and the bus district signed a contract. Doesn't the contract specify that they will do this much in exchange for this much money? That's the way contracts usually work. And if one, and the contract can be changed, but only if both parties agree. So I'm just wondering how we ever got in this position. I wonder if somebody could give us a report on that at some point.
Okay, do they have the same MOE that the roads and infrastructure, the other agencies have and so forth? I guess is that kind of what you're getting at, Rick?
Well,
Do they have the same minimum of effort that maintenance of effort? Thank you for the right word. Service levels that our folks at Sonoma County and other jurisdictions have. I don't know that.
So there are performance measures related to transit and state funding that are not reported. In terms of the split with full state transit, that comes from a very old resolution. That's so it is a straight percentage and not tied to. So that's one of the things we're.
One of the things that you're kind of ironing out. Okay, looking into. Okay, thank you, Rick. Is that satisfy
yeah,
your?
I'd like to hear about that when they can
Yeah.
get a report together for us.
Okay,
But I've been trying to explain this to the League of Women Voters, to whom I report, and they're all astonished that we're still paying $50 million for something about a quarter of the service we used to get.
okay,
And
got
then
it.
apparently we've been doing that for 3 years.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. Mosa?
In fact, I have a question. Why do we pay, from the start, $50 million, even though, pay tolls when we go, over the Golden Gate Bridge, so we contribute to the budget there. So do you have information about this, why we are paying, the $50 million?
Why we're paying that?
Yeah, even though we pay tolls there.
So it is tied to that resolution that I mentioned earlier. And I think I'm not sure if it's exactly right, but
Could you speak up?
yeah, sorry.
So can I just make a suggestion though, since we've got some business that we have to attend to here? We've already addressed the fact that it's going to be agendized in the future when you have more information. So I'd like to just kind of try to stay up with the time and so forth. I don't mean to be rude, but is that okay with you guys?
How
Okay.
about just a presentation then on what the arrangement is and how it was done?
All goes into the hopper. You'll report back to us. Thank you. Good idea, Jerry. Okay. Any other public comments? Seeing none, let's go on to administrative items, which is the approval of the January 29th. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to, was Rick correct? Is number 6 wrong for the draft coming out February 5th? On the board of directors agenda?
Is that I thought it would be a good idea to print up the agenda packet here.
Uh-huh.
And so they're like use the wrong file with that, but I just want to show that online is the correct version. So yes, item 6 will be for the March 11th board meeting.
Okay.
And then it is for the February 26th meeting.
So
I just
Thank you.
the January 29th date on this one. I printed up the agenda.
We like to catch you guys in any kind of mistakes because they're so few and far between, and we'll just belabor this and bring it up over and over again.
No, that's why we need you.
Thank you. All right. We are on to the meeting minutes, which I'm sure are perfect, but if everybody's had a chance to read them, we'll look for a motion and a second so we can get into discussion. So motioned. Any second? Mark? Second. Any discussion, corrections to the minutes from last meeting? Hi, Jake.
Hi. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry to be interrupted. I sell books.
Well, you got 2 yellow stickers on you.
It's because I was selling books in the library.
Where are you going? Over here? Okay. All right, so we got a motion and Mark was a second. Any discussion on the minutes, corrections? All those in favor of the minutes as presented? Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? See-
I think
We have-
I wasn't here, no.
Okay, so we have two abstentions. All right, thank you. Jennifer and Tim. All right, thank you. We are on to notice of the chair and vice chair elections. So I don't know exactly how to proceed with that. Who's running that show?
Basically,
Yeah.
yeah, we'd like to conduct the chair and vice chair elections, for this committee. So just, most of you know the purpose of all this, but, those elected to fill the seats will have the responsibility of running meetings as well as, representing the CAC, before the authority, the board, and other venues as necessary. Existing chair and vice chair are eligible for re-election. And basically, what we'll do is we will ask for a moment or a motion to nominate a chair. If we do have competing motions, we will ask each organization to cast a vote for the record.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we re-elect our existing chair and vice chair. They've done such a fine job for the last year.
Everybody steps back and leaves us out there. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for the kind words. Melissa and I have talked about it last meeting and we're both willing to accept the nomination if the board so chooses. Thank you, Brian.
But your predecessor made a 25-year term.
More or less. All right,
Let's not make it complicated.
saddle up, Mosa, for another year, my friend. Cover me when I'm not here. Appreciate it. Nice working with you. Oh, we got to still.
Brian Lee, since there's no other motions for chair, it'd be a simple aye, up, down vote.
Sorry, call for the vote. All those in favor of the myself and Mosa continuing for another year? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? On we go. By the way, big pay raise? Cola, little cola. Double what we got last year. Oh my God.
Still doesn't take much ink to draw the number.
Anyways, thank you guys for your support. Appreciate it. We'll do our best. Measure items, Measure M project presentation. I believe that's why Janice is our guest today. Did somebody else want to introduce her or just turn it loose? Shauna, are you in charge of that? David's got it. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have Janice Thompson, Deputy Director of Sonoma County Public Infrastructure, here to provide you the presentation on their projects.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Janice Thompson, Deputy Director at the newly named Public Infrastructure Department. We used to be Transportation and Public Works, but our new name going forward is Public Infrastructure. So I'll go to the next slide. Please. Oh, great, thank you. So this is what I'm going to be talking about today. These 5 projects: the Forestville area, Airport Boulevard, Arnold Drive, Mark West Springs, and Pengrove area improvements. I'm going to go to the next one. So for the Forestville area improvements, this is a busy slide. So if I use the map first, Phase 1 was a roundabout at Highway 116 and Maribel Road. That is on hold. Phase 2 was a bypass. And we're not moving forward with that project. So we've introduced a while ago Phase 3, which consists of several projects. So now I'm going to go talk about the words portion of the slide. Phase 3 includes sidewalk and crosswalk enhancements at the intersection of State Highway 116 and Maribel Road. a class 1 bike path along Mirabel Road between 116 and the Forestville Youth Park, class 2 bike lane to Davis Road, and a left turn lane on Mirabel at Davis. Also, we have some sidewalk and crosswalk enhancements on State Highway 116 at Covey Road. Additionally, with local funds, we have what we're calling Front Street improvements. Front Street is what Highway 116 through downtown Forestville is colloquially known as. So on 116 between Mirabel and Covey, we're going to be doing some striping to include bike lanes, parking modifications. And we've currently applied for a Caltrans encroachment permit, and we're working through those issues on that. So I have some graphics to show you that a little better. Next slide, that's the existing condition. State Highway 116 going east-west on your slide between Mirabel and Covey. The next slide is an example of the bike lane and striping modifications we're making. In the top, that's Mirabel Road intersection, which we're getting bike lane connections between the trail that comes up to 116 from the south, and then it would head westerly for about a block and then head north on Mirabel Road.
What class bike facility is that?
It's a class, let me think about that. It's a class 4 for that short 1 block between the trail, the class 1 trail and Mirabel Road.
Okay.
So it's going to have some buffering. And then the bottom slide shows some additional striping and parking modifications that we're making, as well as intersection improvements on Covey Road to improve bike and ped safety. So my next slide shows potential improvements on Mirabel Road. So starting on the bottom slide to the right is Highway 116, and heading north is to the left of your screen with showing those improvements. And then I'm going to go to the next slide, which has some potential improvements along Covey Road. These were envisioned when there was a high school there. So we'll be looking at that in the future and keeping an eye on that one. So then my next plan was to talk about Airport Boulevard.
That's a question.
Are there questions during or at the end? How would you like to handle them?
You want to go at the end or as we go?
Your preference.
As we go, I think. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, thank you. So I noticed in the words of the first slide, you said there were class 1 and class 2, and then class 4 in that one short segment.
Yeah.
Will public infrastructure be doing all of that work within your authority? Or, you know, historically in the county, the class 1s have usually been parks. And so do you have experience with doing class 1s on county projects?
Yeah, you're correct. So our regional parks department is typically in charge of class 1s. We're partnering with them in this location.
So they'll do the class 1s on this project as well.
Right.
Could you go back to the slide? So you pointed out one that was a class 4, but where's the class, or can you point out which ones are which class?
Yeah.
It's really hard to see
I know.
detail on those.
Right.
Pointers?
Do I have a pointer?
Do you need one? I might have one here.
Well, so between heading north from 116 where the trail comes in from the south, that's kind of that brown
It's where the
Right.
park is.
color, right? So that's the trail. So in between that trail and Mirabelle, we've got a two-way buffered bike lane for just that portion. And then
Okay,
when
so
you,
where it's the green with the yellow dots in the middle of it.
yes,
Sit there, okay.
yes.
That's
Yes,
300 feet long.
And then. And then it just ends.
well, then you would cross 116 heading north to Mirabelle, where you would then find both a class 1 and class 2. The class 1 going between 116 and Forestville Youth Park, and the class 2 would be from 116 to Davis. Maybe I can show that on slide 6 a little better.
Yes, I'm just concerned about a class 2 on Maribel because of the speed. That, and the amount of traffic.
Sure, yeah.
If I follow up to that, what are the lane widths here? Is it 12 and 14 feet lane widths?
Well, typical lane widths are 12. They
Or-
can go down to 11.
Is it 10 or is it 11? I'm not sure. I know in Windsor it's 10.
Okay.
But, and I don't know because it's a freeway, but for space for a bike lane, and to calm traffic, I think I've seen 10 foot is, I believe.
Yeah, these are exhibits at this point.
Right, so that's what
We're-
that's what I'm
yeah,
asking.
We're not
Yeah.
at the project plan
It
level.
might be good to, if we want to pick up space for bikes. And also this, at least if there's people going to be coming or going out of the road there to calm the traffic some way organically.
Yeah.
Might be a way to
let's
do
go
it.
To see the class 4 continue the whole way. What's the justification for going to class 2?
Just the existing function of the road. I mean, we could look if a class 4 is possible. Of course, it takes up a lot more real estate. We don't have much real estate out there.
I just saved you 3 feet.
Narrower road, narrow lane width slows down,
Yeah,
which
would
is a
slow down.
win for everybody. But
And Mr. Chair, if I may, we'll be PDFing this presentation, sending out to the group so you can see the slides. As Janice mentioned, there's just conceptual exhibits at this point, and the idea is on Mirabel Road, there is no existing shoulders. So by adding the class 2 bike lanes, you're providing a minimum shoulder without doing too much widening. And at the same time, you have a low stress class 1 facility parallel to Mirabel Road. So we're trying to accommodate safety for all modes by doing that.
Thank you, David.
Good purpose, we're in the right direction. Yeah, absolutely.
Rick?
On your first slide, you mentioned something about phases. Can you go back to that?
Yeah, I'm on slide 3.
There, yeah. That one. What's your timeline on those?
So we're still, we're moving forward. We're hoping the Front Street improvements, if we get our Caltrans encroachment permit, could be constructed later this year. That's optimistic. And the rest of them, are in preliminary design, so we're looking at several years away. They're gonna require right of way and a lot of design work, so they're several years out.
I see. Okay, thank you.
And I should note that these projects are funded by a combination of Go Sonoma and Measure M dollars, and they're anticipated to be programmed for construction in fiscal year 2026, 2027.
either get closer to the microphone. I'm not being able to.
Sorry, I was saying that the funding for this project is a combination of Go Sonoma and Measure M dollars, and the construction is probably in fiscal year 2026, 2027.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna go on to Airport Boulevard, slide 8. And Drew and I are cheating with it to get it done.
Yeah.
Okay, so Airport Boulevard, again, a complicated slide here, so I'm gonna focus on the words portion of the slide. Several phases. So Airport Boulevard has long been in the original Measure M program, been identified as a major corridor for improvements, and we have been delivering projects over the last 20 years here. So I've listed them They're in 5 phases, some of which have A, Bs, and Cs. So let me just help you through the color coded portion, what they mean. The blue portions are completed. So that's phases 1A, 1B, 3, 4, and 4A. So I'll talk about those. Phase 1 was is limited by airport, excuse me. Okay, I'm lost here, sorry. We're going from Aviation Boulevard through 3 signalized intersections. So phase 1 was Aviation Boulevard and Highway 101, including the signalization at Aviation Boulevard. We completed that back in 2008. 1B was the widening to 5 lanes from Aviation to Regional Parkway, which was just recently completed in 2021. We have 2 phases to go in phase 1. We have 1C, which is the widening between Regional Parkway and Laughlin Road, which we'll talk about a little more. And we have phase 1D, which is relatively new, which is intersection improvements at Airport Boulevard and Laughlin Road. So I'll talk about those in a little bit more, but I'm just trying to give you kind of an overview for right now. Phase 2 was to extend Brickway Boulevard south. That project is on hold indefinitely. Phase 3 was widening on Airport Boulevard between 101 and Old Redwood Highway, and it included the signalization at Fulton Road. Phase 4 was the Highway 101 interchange, which was completed in 2015. 4A was the landscaping associated with that interchange project, completed in 2022. And phase 5 was to widen Laughlin Road, Brickway to River Road, and that is on hold indefinitely. So that's kind of a big picture of Airport Boulevard, and I'll talk about some of the specifics we're doing. Again, blue completed. A couple of the remaining projects are on hold. So that's kind of the meaning of that slide. I'm going to go on to slide 9. This kind of represents a financial summary of all of those phases of Airport Boulevard. And again, as David said, you'll be getting a copy of this at the end, so you can review it. I don't think you want me to read it all here. And these are some glamour shots of some completed portions of Airport Boulevard. Getting the widening accomplished through the railroad tracks was great for us. We have a very enhanced crosswalk there at Smart Station, so we're really glad to have delivered that portion of the project. This next slide is Airport Boulevard landscaping, which was the planting of trees along the interchange, and the watering period ended in December of 2022. Let me see if that's it. Oh yeah, so here was phase 1D, a little bit more of a discussion. That's Airport Boulevard at Laughlin Road to the south and Sky Lane to the north. So that's what it looks like existing. And if I go on to the next slide, that's a very early rendering of a possibility of a roundabout at this intersection. And you can see on your screen the funding. We've got a project estimate of 6.4 million, of which we have 4.5 goes Sonoma, $1 million in local county funds. We still have a project need on this one. And the next slide, I would be talking about Arnold Drive, so I'll pause if there's any questions.
I have one quick one. On the landscaping for Airport Boulevard, does that also include the bioswale, the landscaping and the median between the sidewalk and the curb, like around American Ag Credit?
No, that was separate.
Who's got that?
We do.
And where is that?
So-
Progress wise?
Yeah, so we're working on that. We've identified that as a need. It was, the initial planting was not successful, so we're gonna organize round two.
Curious, because it comes up at our spec meeting. We talk bioswales all the time, and that's one of the areas that we refer to. So I didn't know what the situation was. Thank you. Okay, yeah, Jerry.
So phase two, the right of way, we even have the right of way yet, phase two?
So I'm gonna go back.
Because the existing bridge is disappearing a little more every year.
Oh, so the bridge on Laughlin Road?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we don't have an active project for
So
that.
no active project, no, right away for it, right?
Correct.
And then the circle, I'm wondering why the circle is necessary given the traffic that's there now. It's never an issue.
Yeah, so we're in the very early study phases, and we're looking at intersection improvements that could include a signal, a roundabout. We're looking at all options. So that'll
Stop
come
sign.
out in a
Stop
report.
signs today might work for another 10 years.
Harris
Okay,
first.
so given county's goals to reduce VMTs and greenhouse gas emissions, given that smart extension to Windsor is in progress, and now they've got the shuttle connecting up the whole area there, why on earth are we widening roads? And why would we put a class 2 bike lane there? That should be a protected bike lane.
Actually, I just want to follow, I do bike on this road. I don't know if anyone else on this road does. And
No,
you-
yeah, right.
You can't tell because I go to the fitness club there, then you can tell. But it's and I first emailed Mike McGuire back when he was a young pup supervisor. Airport Boulevard is really used by a lot of cyclists. We don't have very good bike infrastructure there. There's 2 schools there now. Nova is building a campus there. Sonoma Country Day. Their nannies got to ride their bikes to pick the kids up, but someone's got to go there to have some bikes on Airport Boulevard. We don't have good protection there, and we also don't have good street sweeping because a lot of industry there. So if we could consider that in futures on this road, the county's moving their new offices there. I think for 2 departments will be in our old Death Star building. So maybe look into that. And the widening, people drive very fast there now because we gave them plenty of space to do it. But those are just my thoughts.
Mark.
So phase 1C and 1D are the sections leading right up to the airport. Kind of just right there in front. D is the first section and C is the bigger section, which will incorporate some signal improvements at Skyline, for example. Well, a segue about the bike issue and the ingress, egress, and a lot of cyclists using the road is great. I think it plays into my comment, which I'm about to deliver about the airport. Our airport is wildly successful. It's growing, like it or not, how we feel about airplanes and travel. It's a huge economic boon to our area for tourism and travel and lots of things. Is there a feel for when we'll get the funding to service the businesses in the airport and improve the bicycle safety all the way to the airport? Do we have an idea on the Measure M or Go Sonoma funding?
Okay, I'm gonna flip back to my slide. So phase 1D is partially funded at this time. That's the intersection improvements. And we have a request in for more funding.
Yeah, I saw the numbers. Do you have a feel for how close we are?
I
Mr.
would-
Chair, if I may, we have action item 5 on your agenda to cover portion of
Okay.
phase 1C, perhaps for your consideration tonight.
A quick tag on to this comment about the airport. We live somewhere where we can actually ride up to the airport. If there was a safe place to be.
There's no bike parking at the airport.
There's no bike parking at the
That's funny.
airport. If there were some of those bike lockers, like there are, smart stations, I fly out of there fairly frequently, I would be able to take my bike and the train and use the lockers and catch my plane, because it's not always easy to get back and forth between the two. Yeah, and most places don't have their airport close enough to town where you could actually do that. And that would be, I know that's probably out of your realm, the airport, but bike lockers at the airport.
We'll drag Johnstown here later. Make him.
I can just see you packed with a big old American luggage on your back.
Oh,
No,
I travel light. I go a week personally.
thank you. Go ahead, Janice.
Good to go. I think we're gonna go to slide 14. Oh, and there we are. So the Arnold Drive Bike Project. This is about 2 miles of a class 2 bike lane on Arnold Drive in the Sonoma area. Next slide. Let's see, I say that we're 30% engineering. We're probably a little further along. We're almost complete on our CEQA environmental document. We held a public outreach meeting back in March of 2023. And we're, as soon as we complete environmental, we'd move into right-of-way and an optimistic construction schedule of 2025.
Excuse me, could you back up one slide? I know where Arnold Drive is, but I don't know which part of it you're talking about there. Can you identify that?
Yellow line between the.
Yeah, I know it's the yellow.
Yeah, so Madrone is on the north project boundary and the southerly project boundary is Country Club Drive near the Sonoma Golf Course.
Yeah, I don't know any of those.
Okay, Agua
Oh,
Caliente
yeah.
Road
Okay, I
is
know
there in the middle, and that's where the roundabout is.
I know where we are.
So that's my neck of the woods. And we've talked about this one for a number of years and we're excited to see it making progress. Make sure you can hear me. So I'm just curious if there's been any discussions, because you've been to this committee for a couple of years now, describing this project, and just has there been any modifications to the project and the design? Because you've gotten a lot of feedback over the years. And especially given the fact that there's now the much larger proposal at SDC. So that, how have you adjusted to those new changes?
Yeah, so this particular project hasn't changed. It's still moving forward as a class 2.
And then the obvious follow-up is that still the right way to go? And how are we making that decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the environmental process, options were considered. And we have received, community feedback and we're taking it in. Right away is going to be tricky along this stretch. If you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
In some areas, these will be people's front yards.
Janice, what's the approximate difference in easement needed for the various bike paths? What does class 4 need compared to a class 2 or class 1?
Yeah, so a class 2 can be, 4 or 5 feet widening on either side of the road, which essentially comes down to a traveled lane. And then any drainage features that are needed, any environmental LID features that are needed, that takes right of way. The class 4, probably similar, if not more. Because it's got buffers that the class 2s do not.
Thank you.
Real quick, the acronym LID, would you mind explaining that?
Oh,
For those
that's,
in the room who might not
sorry,
know.
yeah, environmental concerns, it's a acronym for low impact development.
Which would include bioswales and retention basins.
Correct.
And we have to take right of way to construct and maintain those.
The real LID was live.
It's more and more so. I mean, North Coast Regional Water Control Board has come out and said we're gonna be more stringent. We want more inspection and you will do it.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, I'm gonna move on to slide 16, which is our Mark West Springs Road sidewalk project. This included the addition of sidewalk between Old Redwood Highway and Ursuline Road. The road was recently overlaid and we're hoping if we get some good weather, we can stripe it. We should be done, we'll be done as soon as we stripe. We're in the punch list phase of this project. Next slide, I have some before pictures there. There were portions of it had asphalt pathways separated by a dike or nothing at all. So for about 3.3 million, 1 million of which is Measure M funding, we're completing this project. Next slide shows some current pictures out there. This was kind of a fun project. We had some unique features here. This is in the footprint area of the Tubbs fire, and there was a lot of community involvement, and an artist joined the team and came up with some sidewalk design. There's kind of a river of sparkly sidewalk here, as well as some concrete cliffs with inspirational words on them. Those are all a lot of new words for me. Sorry to use big new words here, but that's what's happening at Mark West Springs Road. Any questions on that project?
Rick?
That's a sidewalk.
Yes, it
It's
is.
not used by bikes.
No, there's bike lanes there too.
I see. Because it seems to me, I don't know if you were thinking of ever making bike paths that look like that, but I think that's a bad idea because it can be quite distracting and you wind up driving into a fence or into the gutter. We'll see.
Yeah, there is bike lanes associated with this project as well. Okay, next slide. I will talk about Pengrove improvements. So again, we have multiple phases in the Pengrove area. Back in 08 of phase 0 here, there was a traffic operational study. Phase 1, we're currently in design. That's intersection improvements of Adobe Road and Main Street. And phase 2, there is listed an interchange improvement with Highway 101 at Railroad Avenue. We're not currently active on that project. And we're excited to be bringing phase 3 and phase 4, which are intersection improvements, Old Redwood Highway at Goodwin and Eli Road, as well as intersection improvements, Old Redwood Highway at Railroad Avenue. And these are being made possible through Measure M funding.
What's the improvement gonna be at Old Redwood Highway and Railroad?
Well, let's talk about that.
Let's go, lady.
First, if I could, I'm going to talk about phase 1, which is Main Street, Adobe, Petaluma Hill Road. This photo is on Adobe Road looking westward. So that's Pengrove Elementary up on the hill to the right of the photo. We're going to add a right turn lane here. So westbound Adobe onto northbound Petaluma Hill. Very heavy used traffic turning movement. I have one fan in the room.
No, you got more than that.
So this project, we're currently in preliminary design and environmental, which we hope to complete in April and move into the right-of-way phase, which we're anticipating to take about a year. And we're hoping to start construction in 2025. This project is 4.6 million. We started with Rohnert Park traffic mitigation fees, Measure M fees, and as the scope of the project has creeped up, we are able to find some county funds of 1.6 million, and we currently have a funding request with David and Company for the matching 1.6 million.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair,
Sir,
did I hear the phrase Rohnert Park mentioned?
No.
As part of the funding source?
did you?
Yes.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. So for both these intersection improvement projects, we had the board award a combination of Measure M funds and Run Park traffic mitigation fees last year. It's probably a SCTA funding program.
Finally, some of these monies are actually being applied to the intention that the impact fees were applied on the construction of University District and Willow Glen. I just wanted to say how pleased I am to hear this. Thank you.
And that's
You
the
bet.
county funds column?
That's the RP traffic mitigation fees in the first column.
Very cool. I'm sorry, forgive me.
None of the other jurisdictions have chosen to contribute
To
to
step
these.
up like Rohnert Park did.
Glass Petaluma.
Well, we were waiting and have been for a long time. Anyway, evidently nothing has happened.
Thank you, Jake.
We're paying them for 12 or 13 years.
2016, the first houses started to be built with these impact fees, 8 years, University District.
Rick?
Are some of those numbers in dollars and some in thousands of dollars?
Yeah, it's a little confusing.
Oh, yeah, sorry. The first one is in real dollars.
Well, the second and third must be too.
Oh, yeah, and the second and third. Sorry, my bad.
Are there any bicycle lane improvements in this project, in this phase?
Yeah, the widening will include, but there's no real connections. Petaluma Hill, as you know, has a bike lane, but Adobe does not.
No. I'm right, I read that very well.
Okay, so the next one is, sorry, I'm on slide 22, Pen Grove Phase 3. This is Old Redwood Highway at Eli Road and Goodwin. And again, we are just kicking off preliminary engineering and environmental. We hope to be done in about a year. We hope to have right of way in another year and then construction. This is optimistic, but we're hoping for 2026. And again, I have used real dollar values in my chart. So we're looking at 2.8 million with the use of 1.1 in Rohnert Park traffic mitigation fees, 1.1 in Measure M, and about $500,000 in local county funds.
Janice, when you go to the county funds, what goes into that hopper?
Yeah, we're tapping the traffic mitigation fees that we've collected.
And you and I have had this conversation before because I get asked this every year by a couple of our rock suppliers, not this one in particular. But those use fees and taxes that they pay, where does that money go? And does that go into the county fund hopper?
So
For instance, does Canyon Rock
yeah.
dollars go into the Forestville, Mirabelle?
So quarry funds have their own rules and restrictions and locations. I don't have that in the top of my head, but that's separate from land development fees. So this is as private parcels are developed and bring traffic to an area, we collect traffic mitigation fees.
They're significant dollars, though. Is that a fair statement?
Well, they contribute to a project. So a project is identified and then the individual contributions are calculated based on the percentage that they contribute to that project, based on the percentage of traffic increase that the road system sees from their development.
So if local trucking wasn't trucking from those quarries, would those fees not come into the county?
So the quarry fees are different than development fees. The quarries are more of a use fee. So based on their location, the surrounding roads see a heavier use, and so they're assessed accordingly.
What I'm getting to is the PLA negotiations that are ongoing. So I'm always concerned that if the trucking aspect of project labor agreements necessitates that the quarries are used outside the county, that then the county will not be getting these fees from the local quarries because they're not trucking from there.
And that's a possibility, but that would
It is.
affect the quarry fees, which are separate buckets than traffic mitigation fees.
Correct.
Yeah.
But my point was, are those significant fees? I know they are to the quarry operators. Like Mark can speak to that
Or
himself.
local developers think they're significant, yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. Mark,
What I think this should hear is that if the business doesn't stay local, then the VMT, the vehicle miles traveled to go get the materials from an out of the area union only supplier not only does it not support the local business, but it might use the same roadways that might have been used to go to the local quarries to get the aggregate to a project. And then, oh, guess what? The county doesn't get to collect those fees. So you have a series of negative impacts going on.
fairly said.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
for the record, I just want to say that back in the day, when I was on SCTA, I presented the Runner Park traffic mitigation fee proposal. That was prior to houses being built under the development agreements with the developers in University District and Willow Glen. At that time, I proposed the idea that the city of Santa Rosa and the city of Petaluma were also contributing to traffic on Petaluma Hill Road. And would it not be appropriate for these jurisdictions to also have traffic mitigation fees? Since that time, the houses have been built on the east side of Runner Park. The money is being utilized, and as far as I can tell, Petaluma and Santa Rosa has never contributed.
that doesn't
This
sound,
is for the record.
that doesn't seem right.
Well, I didn't think it was right at the time. I got no support at SCTA. And it's kind of weird to be coming back here in the Citizens Advisory Committee over a decade later.
Well, we care, and I mean, we really do care.
No,
Yeah.
I'm quite serious.
Yeah, so am I.
We made it very clear.
You're gonna use the roads, you should pay for them. Yeah,
Anyway,
anyways.
I just wanted this on the record. I feel much better now, thank you.
Say again?
Steve Bertelbaugh. So I just.
Oh, hi, Steve. I can see you up there in the top right corner.
Yeah, I want to go back for just a minute to the question of funding for bicycle on the shoulder or bike lanes. Does the decision about whether to add a bike lane to a particular segment of roadway depend on the Bicycle Advisory Committee's recommendations and plans? Or is there some way of aligning those decisions with the available funding?
Are you asking if we have any effect as a committee?
I'm looking at this old Redwood Highway and Ely Road, and I assume there are a lot of bike riders on these, but there don't seem to be any provision for protected bike lanes.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I should note that the county's in the process of preparing a public draft for their Pen Grove area traffic plan that they're working on, which does have some improvements planned for bicyclists, but I'll defer to Janice on when that plan will be publicly available.
Yeah, we're working towards that. We're hoping to be complete in about a month on the Pengrove area traffic study. And we do consult with our local bicycle coalitions and groups when it comes to planning projects.
That box is checked. Okay, thank you.
Jim,
Mark.
The right of way number, is that pretty much just a verification? You think you have the right of way and it's a verification, or you actually acquire?
Yeah, thanks for the question. We need to acquire right of way for this project, and that's the schedule with which we hope to be complete.
What are you gonna do?
Well, this is a very early potential exhibit of what one option might be.
It's on the floor,
Oh, what?
the floor.
Oh, a rotary.
But with bypass.
Ready for the next slide?
Yes, thank you.
Pengrove Phase 4, intersection improvements, Old Redwood Highway at Railroad Avenue. Very similar schedule to the previous project. We're kind of gonna work on these in tandem. We're in the early preliminary and environmental phase and hope to be done with that in about a year. Right of way taking another year and construction in 2026. And again, similar funding. This one's a little bit more at 5.5 million. We're using nearly 2.4 in Roanoke Park traffic mitigation fees, 2.4 matching Measure M, and 750,000 of local county funds.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Jake.
what is envisioned at this interesting intersection?
Well, here, next slide. This is, again, I think you can tell this is very early and very preliminary, but one option is a roundabout at this location as well.
Now, at least it's outside the city limits of Catawba.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. I was curious.
Tom?
I've never heard of this before.
Yeah, if I could just ask the,
Correct. But
Ask
I've not been around.
Very early, very preliminary.
yeah, so at this early preliminary stage, what's the difference in design? What guides the design decision to have this design with no bypass lane versus the previous roundabout design that we saw conceptually showed on the other Eli Road one?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. We've hired engineering design consultants, and they're in the process of preparing an intersection control evaluation where they study several options for these intersections. They have the traffic volumes, the turning movements. And so they look at this and prepare feasibility studies for options, including signalization and roundabouts.
And is traffic stress and traffic speed, are those part of the criteria that are being evaluated during that process?
Yeah, so speed and volume are, I don't know what traffic stress is. Is that what we are when we're driving in the county?
Traffic stress, level of traffic stress is a metric used similar to level of service from a perspective of a driver of an automobile. Level of traffic stress is a measure of the qualitative experience of the bicycle user on the roadway. And it's used in a lot of different planning contexts now. It's actually, I think, referenced in some of the state and other guidelines. So I think it's a way of systematically answering the question I'm asking, and I'd love to see that being seriously considered. And we're on these projects early enough in the process.
Yeah.
That hopefully we can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I love roundabouts, and there is move a foot in Katati, by the way, Jake. To undo the roundabout then. But again, if we're looking at taking up the amount of space and rebuilding for these intersections, to not also include bike facilities as part of that project seems criminal and short-sighted.
Yeah, and my concern is that when you put in the bypass lanes, as we're about to have at 116 in Sonoma Valley, I'm wondering what the effect on traffic speeds are going to be at those intersections, because right now it's a four-way stop and it's congested, but if it's essentially like an off-ramp, I can see people really speeding through there and having that become a safety issue for everybody involved. So we're getting more of these designs throughout the county. Curious about that and keep an eye on it.
That intersection is a four-way stop or a two-way stop?
That's not a four-way stop.
Well, that one only.
One I'm
has
talking about is
railroads,
Sonoma.
the only ones that have stops.
So when you are in the preliminary phases here, what makes the engineers preliminarily think a roundabout is the better solution rather than stop signs, turn lanes, that sort of thing? Is it a matter of the footprint, dollars? What goes into the criteria, if I may?
Yeah, it's all of those things. And again, I showed you roundabouts. But we're also looking at signalization, which also comes with queuing and the need to stack and the need to widen. And so we look at all of it. We've got this intersection control evaluation is an actual report. It's called an ICE report, and they look at all of those factors. They look at speeds, at volumes, at stacking, at delays of a roundabout, at traffic accidents. Do roundabouts lower a certain type of accident? Yes. Do signals lower a certain type? It's all
All of the above.
all of it's weighed and discussed.
These must be more economical because we keep seeing more and more of them come into fruition. Roundabouts being.
Yeah, hard to say. It depends is the answer to that.
Okay.
It just depends on each individual situation
Thank you.
for the economics.
This is another intersection I have a lifetime of experience with. This is totally my stomping grounds. And I'm telling you right now, the county is going to be seriously limited with the width of Railroad West and Railroad East. They're actually labeled as two separate roads. And so you have a rather wide Old Redwood Highway, which used to be our old Highway 101 many decades ago. It's wide and fast. Traffic is typically 50, 55 through there. And then you have these two very narrow side streets, West Railroad and East, that try to come onto that. And stacking and turn pockets and all that are not going to be possible. There are creek sides right along the roads that are seriously going to limit this design. So we've got to let the process do its course. And
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very challenging location and it's indicated
And then there's
in the cost.
question. Railroad and its intersection with US 101. And the idea that that would in fact be widened and become a fully enlarged intersection in terms of traffic mitigation. Maybe that idea has been lost in the midst of time.
In the interest of time, go ahead, Janice.
Yeah, next slide, number 26.
Excuse me.
That concludes my presentation. Are there any
Good.
other
Segue
questions?
right into it. Atta girl. You want me to hurry up? I'm done. Thank you. Any final comments? Great job, by the way. A lot of information.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah.
Any
You
wrap up
mentioned-
questions? Tom, go
Yeah,
ahead.
you mentioned on the Arnold Drive that the environmental process was nearing completion on the Arnold Drive bike lanes. Is that EIR available yet, or is it date? You have a rough date as to when it will be available?
Yeah, I don't have those facts with me today.
This quarter, next quarter?
Oh, yeah, very soon.
Okay.
Very,
thank you.
very soon. Yeah.
Rick?
Earlier, Tom mentioned the expanded plans for the Sonoma Development Center. I don't think that was followed up. are you taking into account the higher traffic densities that are probably gonna be generated by whatever they do there?
Yeah, I mean, we have to take everything on a case by case basis and we're moving forward with our project. And we don't know where the SDC project is gonna end up, so.
But what if it turns out that whatever you do is inadequate?
Well, the project is to provide bike lanes on that 2 mile stretch of Arnold Drive, so. I'm not sure what will become of STC, but they can have a project that results from their project.
In other words, it's their problem.
Well, I mean, I can't address something that may or may not come to be. I mean, we're planning for it. There's a planning process.
Their project first, when that one comes in, they'll be required to. So, yeah, they will be on. As long as we get identified before.
And to defend you guys, I mean, you don't know what's gonna come out of Rogel and SDC. Probably for 10 more years, to be quite honest, so you can't wait until you have that defined before you move forward on these other projects, I wouldn't think.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
Each
but
project takes care of its current conditions and proposes a future condition, but I can't even begin to wonder what the future.
Right.
but
will
they're
bring.
cutting down trees in the visual supposed scenic corridor there today as I just came through.
The thing that we do know though, from pretty good research, is that class 2 lanes don't change behavior. It doesn't get more people cycling because a strip of paint doesn't keep cars from crashing into you.
Right.
But protected bike lanes do change behavior and people feel safer and more people are likely to bicycle. So that's why we've been consistently saying that protected bike lanes need to be the default and not class 2. Anytime a bike facility is going in, because why do it? It's not gonna make a difference.
Good point. Thank you, Janice.
Thank you.
And you guys are gonna make the beautiful slides available to
We
us.
send that out after the meeting, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, we are on to Measure M financial statements, Brenton and David.
Let's see, where would you like me to sit up here? Okay, can I sit with you? Okay.
Have my phone.
Thank you, Drew.
Mark, you can't ask any questions now, that's it. Have to yell.
All right, should I share or are you, Ross? You got it? Okay. All right. So hello, everybody. We'll be doing the Measure M financials for the month ending January 31st for Measure M. As usual, you are provided 4 documents for the finances. The first is the combined balance sheet for the entirety of Measure M, and then the same balance sheets broken down by program. Following that is a year-to-date cash flow report, and then a program-to-date cash flow report going back to the beginning of Measure M. Revenues last month were $2,810,388, and year-to-date revenues are now sitting at $13,847,311. And expenses were $8,896,092. And year-to-date expenses are now $12,269,595, with a cash balance of $65,799,833. Revenues for January were primarily sales and use taxes of
2.35 million, and then there was almost $500,000 in interest on pooled cash. There was also a negative 41,878 revenue, which was a prior year expense. It was a late invoice that came in from last year. And then our expenses of almost 9 million, 2.77 million, or yeah, 2.77 million was LSR and LBT contributions for the last quarter to local cities and jurisdictions. And then there is a $6,055,000 payment for principal and interest on our debt, $32,600 in staff time, and $24,600 in consultant services. So pretty usual month there, except for the large debt payment for the year. And that's it, unless there's any questions.
Can we see that last slide again?
Sure.
Yeah, keeps disappearing. Okay.
Well, I'm just gonna leave it here. Oops.
Hit slideshow. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Can you say more about the first line? $2.7 million.
Yes.
For the government, what's that mean?
Those are the LSR and LBT payments that we make to the various cities and the county and other transportation agencies, transit agencies.
I don't know those acronyms.
For road maintenance
Oh.
and bus transit.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. We have a lot of debt.
Yeah, these are
$6 million.
yes, this is the 2015 bond repayment. Most of it is principal, and then there's a small portion that was interest payments as well.
Oh, I see. Okay.
The 2015 bonding.
All right, thank you.
Okay, yep, thank you. All right, and that's all for me.
Thanks,
David?
Brendan. And we don't need any action. That's informational only.
Correct.
Thank you.
Oh, hold on.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything to add, David?
Just to note that revenue projections for the next couple of fiscal years after this one are a little softer than we originally anticipated by the board back in October when they approved our budget. Just really depends on the rate of economic growth after COVID and inflation, and things are looking a little bit more grim. And I'm sure you all been hearing about the state budget process, so we're keeping a close eye on that.
Yeah, seems like that state budget's changing like tens of millions, billions every 2 weeks. Anyways, number 5, SCTA funding program, cycle 1 augmentation. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So hopefully you all received the email earlier today. We had an issue with the packet, but your staff report was sent out by Drew this morning. So this is an item to talk about the 20 million we have available in the Regional Measure 3 North Bay Transit Access Improvements Program and the 9 million in Measure M funding that was exchanged last year between the Highway 101 program and funding we had available from the State Transportation Improvement Program. For the 20 million RM3 funds, those can only be used by jurisdictions that operate transit, so namely SMART, Sonoma County, Petaluma, and City of Santa Rosa. The 9 million Measure M funds is very flexible, and the idea with that, when this committee and the board approved it last year, was to make it available for project sponsors, have them have an easier to use source of funds like Measure M than state transportation dollars, so that we could try to get some small projects going. In your staff report, there's a list of all of the updated project requests we received from our jurisdictions. This adds up to over $600 million in requests, much greater than the small amount of 29 million we have available. A large portion of that request is 400 million total in requests from SMART for their extensions to Healdsburg, Cloverdale, and a couple pathway projects. But even without those, you're looking at over $200 million in requests, which is much more than we can recommend to you for funding. Sorry about that. In your staff report, there's 2 different tables with 2 different sets of recommendations. Those recommendations differ depending on whether or not the City of Santa Rosa is awarded a federal Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods grant for their bicycle and pedestrian overcrossing of Highway 101. We were hoping to hear about that last week or this week, but we still haven't heard anything yet on the results of that grant. So once we hear the results of that grant, we'd be able to make a recommendation on which of these two scenarios to move forward with. I should note that there's two differences between the two scenarios. Looking at the first table, table 1 or scenario 1 in your packet, that includes 10.6 million for the bicycle pedestrian overcrossing, assuming that federal grant is not awarded. And it also includes 2 million for Petaluma Transit for some transit facility electrification work, $1 million for Santa Rosa City Bus to improve their existing transit hubs, 3.6 million for Sonoma County Transit for 4 replacement buses, and 2.8 million for SMART for their Windsor extension to construct an undercrossing at Windsor High School of the tracks. The recommendation also includes 9 million of Measure M funds for a variety of projects in jurisdictions, and a lot of that is partial funding to get them going on project development work. And also includes, as I mentioned earlier, some funds from Measure M, the Local Streets Project Program, for 2 projects in the county. One, the additional 1.6 million the county needs to deliver their Adobe Road and Main Street project in Pengrove, and then 4 million for the Airport Boulevard widening for a portion of their Phase 1C, which would be paired with the existing work that's being done on Phase 1D. That would extend the widening to Brickway, and we're open to whether that's 2 or 4 lanes and the types of bicycle facilities, but without that funding, that project would not be able to move forward.
Quick, I'm sorry. What page in the PDF are you on?
Page 46.
Thank you.
The recommendations also include a small amount of federal earmark funds for a project in Petaluma. Those are old 15, 20-year-old earmark funds from the Highway 101 corridor that now that those projects are getting closed out, those savings are becoming available, and they're very restricted on the types of projects they can be used for. And so we're recommending that 83,000 that's available being used for the River Trail Highway 101 crossing project, which is a bicycle and pedestrian facility. As the additional earmarks get closed out, we would probably be recommending that they go to that project as well. The second scenario, the only differences between the first scenario is we're assuming that hopefully that the federal grant for Santa Rosa's project gets awarded. In that case, that 10.6 million that was recommended for the overcrossing could be used for other projects, namely 3.6 million for battery electric charging bus infrastructure for Santa Rosa City Bus to expand their charging facilities to include potentially solar and battery backup for their buses, and also 7 million to cover a shortfall SMART has on the pathway extension between the airport and Santa Rosa North stations. I should note that the time-sensitive item before us really is the 2.8 million that SMART needs for the Windsor Undercrossing project. They need to move forward with a contract change order with their contractor in March for that work, or else the contractor needs to get moving and move forward. That 2.8 million would connect the box culvert that's already funded under the tracks and provide ADA accessible ramps for students to be able to get to the box culvert and get under the tracks. Otherwise, once the project is complete, there'll be fencing along the right of way, and students will have to go all the way up to the roundabout at Windsor River Road to get to school. And so we're trying to avoid another situation like the Jennings Avenue undercrossing project or overcrossing project in Santa Rosa. And so if we do not hear about the federal grant in the next week, we are going to be moving forward with a recommendation to the board, if this committee chooses to support it, for just the 2.8 million for SMART so that they can get that work done and then come back to the board in the future for the rest of the recommendations. So as I noted, the only difference between the recommendations is whether or not that grant for Santa Rosa gets awarded for their overcrossing project. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have on these recommendations, Mr. Chair. But we ask that you recommend to the board that they approve these scenarios.
Thank you. Who's first? Tom?
Yeah, thank you for that. It seems like this is contingent on the outcome of the RCN, what's that called? Regional
Reconnecting communities and neighborhoods.
Communities and neighborhoods. And in the priority projects list, I noticed there's another couple of projects that are also seeking those federal funds. And the one that popped out for me is the one that's the State Route 12 Donald Street Gap. Was that part of the application?
It was a separate application that was submitted by the county for that funding program. I am also aware of another project that SMART submitted for a project in Novato for a bicycle project. However, SMART has informed us that they really are supporting the Santa Rosa project because they really see the connectivity improvements that are generated by the overcrossing of 101. And then also, if that was awarded, additional RM3 funds would be available for the pathway to the airport station.
Right, so my question, I guess, is, are these, because they're different entities that submitted them, but the federal government's probably looking at where the money's going, and so they're in some sense competing projects.
Mhm.
Do you have any sense of prioritization likely by the feds?
So we are aware that the Santa Rosa project is in very high contention. They have had some meetings with high levels of staff at U.S. Department of Transportation. So we're thinking that one could be in the running, but it's a very political process and
Right.
competing nationwide.
It's a lot more money too, though. Okay, thank you for that. So if the outcome were to be the smaller project gets funded, but the larger one doesn't, you still want us to recommend this. If it were the reverse and the large project gets funded and the smaller one in Sonoma doesn't get funded, I'm just trying to think.
Still wants us to recommend this being,
I wonder, the local
the-
project in Sonoma, this Donald Gap down State Route
Yeah.
12, which is a long known priority of the county.
So we've been closely coordinating with the county and Caltrans on that project. They are looking at other grant opportunities, including the active transportation program this summer. And so they are still advancing that project, including with the entry measure LS bike and ped dollars that are for the Central Sonoma Valley.
These
Trail.
are all good projects. I think we have a good sense of getting money, leveraging money to get here. Thank you.
so what's your, there's an immediate need, time sensitive for smart to issue a change order. And either scenario. Okay, so,
Either scenario, the 2.8 million is needed.
but that's not what you're looking for a motion on, it's just the 2.8 million.
At this point, what we're looking for the committee is if you wish to make an action on all of the recommendations tonight, we're happy to do so. If you wish to only act on the 2.8 million, we can support that. But we would prefer that you act on everything so that if we find out tomorrow that the grant's getting awarded, we can move forward to recommendation to the board in March with everything.
And my only hesitancy is obviously the unknown out there with the grant from the city of Santa Rosa. We may be approving something that we have to retract on, right?
We've worded the staff recommendation that you just.
You gave us a little fallout position there, a little roundabout exit.
So the exact. Yeah, the exact recommendation we have is staff recommends that the CAC members review the staff recommendations as shown in table 1 and 2. And recommend to the SCTA board that they either approve either table 1 or table 2, depending on the outcome of the grant application. So you can recommend to the board approve both table 1 and table 2, just dependent on the outcome of the grant application.
Pursuant to the outcome of the grant application.
I'd like to make the motion that we recommend that as David stated.
I'll second.
Glad we had,
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Today is February the 26th.
It is the 26th.
So if RCN awards are not announced by today, I'm just asking through you, is that very finite?
We can probably push that a day.
The business is pretty close.
It really depends on how long James gives me to write a staff report, but I think we could probably stretch that a day or two if we have to. But I think at this point, we're happy to have the committee take a recommendation on everything and then.
Through you, Mr. Chair, is the executive director, general manager giving us a thumbs up on these extra days?
You can have until the end of the day on Wednesday.
That's it after that.
That'd be a hard deadline and he has to be willing to put out the staff report. Because we really wouldn't we would prefer not to have to go twice to the board. But given the fact that we need an agenda that's released and there's production time with Drew and getting it out, we need that time when we want the agenda on the streets a week from today. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is everybody comfortable with the conditions that they so eloquently put into the motion? If so, we'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And those that didn't understand it and want to abstain? There's one. At least we got some honesty here. Thanks, Jim.
I just wanted to know if this.
There's a lot of pressure you're putting on this little committee, you guys. God darn. Anyways, thank you. Motion carries. Yeah, we thrive on pressure. Does anybody have any announcements? Harris. Always got an
So
announcement.
it's two things. One is, despite all the promoting how great California is about climate change, this one's looking at taking a lot of money out of the active transportation program in the next budget. And so the California Bicycle Association is urging people to contact Newsom and our representatives about that. You can go to calbike.org and they'll have a thing you can click on to say, keep the funding there, if that interests you. The other thing is kind of fun. One of the things, so we now have count them, three class 4 protected bike lanes in the county, one in Windsor, one in Santa Rosa, and one in Petaluma.
Specifically, I want to go see them.
Armory Drive in Santa Rosa.
Thank you.
Okay.
North McDowell in Petaluma. And what's the one in,
The one by the middle school?
yeah,
Brooks Road South.
Yeah.
in Windsor?
Yes.
What's the street?
Brooks Road.
Brooks,
No,
Brooks
Brooks
and
Road.
Brooks and Windsor.
Between Lucchese and.
They're talking a different, so we're on to Windsor. They're talking
But
Petaluma.
Up in
it's
Windsor.
more up at the old.
We have a separate conversation going on over here. Extremely rude,
So anyway.
extremely rude.
One of the concerns that jurisdictions.
Keep going.
express when we talk about these lanes is, well, how are we gonna clean it?
Correct.
Now, there are devices that are the wit to sweep that, and there's a gentleman down in Silicon Valley who has created a powered bike lane sweeper.
I saw that on
And
Facebook.
he lent it to me.
Oh.
He lent one to us. It's still prototype. It'll be commercially available within the next year. And so my staff and I are going to test it out tomorrow. And we have it for a month. And so we'll be setting up some demos at different places in the county so people can come see. Now, we're not necessarily offering that we're gonna take over sweeping all the bike lanes in the county.
Am I to understand this is pedal powered sweeper?
It's
Pedal powered sweeper.
Sweeper.
You don't get to cheat and turn your little electric, turbo power on your bike, do you?
You can do it with whatever bike you want. We're just gonna do it with one of our cargo bikes, which is not electric. But it just, I saw that
Pretty
product
cool.
and happened to just say, well, God, that's cool. And the guy said, oh, I'm not too far from you. I'd lend it to you if you wanna come get it. So we did and we are. And so I think that's just gonna be a kind of fun little thing we're gonna be doing over the next month. So stay tuned for dates and locations.
Please take pictures.
Oh, yeah, pictures, videos, and yeah.
And just because I can, I just wanted to say, we had our installation and awards dinner on Saturday night for the ECA, and one of the guys that we honored posthumously was John Ramazzi. And he did regularly, I believe, the bicycle around Lake Tahoe. And I just wanted to bring up, if there's anybody in this room that has done that on a bicycle, please raise your hand or stand up. Yes. So that's my announcement. Way to go. Way to go, Mr. Ling. What's that?
You knew the answer.
I did know that answer. I didn't know if there's anybody else.
Motorbike count?
No, 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 but nice try. Nice try.
I don't know if e-bikes count either.
Had to be hella hard. I don't care how good a shape and fine looking you are. You do a mile or two to warm up and train. Yeah. Okay, good. Anyways, thank you guys. We are exactly on time. What a crew.
Good job. Thank you.
Adjourn.
Congratulations.
That's the first time. Thank you. This is the first time